Time to say goodbye to the iPhone for just a little bit and go full-time with Google's latest and greatest, the Pixel 10 Pro. Not the XL, just the regular Pixel 10 Pro. Now, while I do have the XL in the studio, I opted in for the regular Pro just because it's the closest size and experience as the regular iPhone 16 Pro, which is the iPhone that I've been using the most. Now, I've been using this Pixel 10 Pro for about a week now, and honestly, I think Google finally hit it out of the park. Let me tell you why. So the thing about the Pixel 10 series this year is that Google pretty much kept the same design as last year's Pixel and refined it just a little bit. Now on the outside, we still have that iconic camera bar that we all know and love. We still have that same ultra premium build quality. We also now have Qi 2 built in with magnets, which Google's calling Pixel Snap, and of course an updated processor and slightly better cameras. All right, so before we keep talking about the Pixel 10 Pro, let's talk specs real quick. So the phone that I'm reviewing here is the Google Pixel 10 Pro, which is the smaller of the two Pros, and it's using the all-new Tensor G5 processor, which is finally using TSMC's 3nm process for better performance and efficiency. Now this comes with 16 gigs of RAM and up to 1 TB of storage, but this one that I'm reviewing only has 128 gigs of storage, and please do not buy 128 gigs of storage because it will run out quick. Now, just like previous Tensor chips, this won't really give you the highest benchmark scores nor the best performance on any smartphone. Google's not really after all of that, and benchmarks aren't really all that important anymore. All smartphones are fast nowadays, and Google's all about AI, and they're all about balancing power and efficiency. Now, the Pixel 10 Pro does come in 4 colors: Obsidian, Porcelain, Jade, and Moonstone, which is the unit that I have right here, and I think it's one of the better colors this year. Now, probably the most exciting new feature hardware-wise on the Pixel 10 series this year is, of course, Pixel Snap. And for all the iPhone users out there, it's basically MagSafe, but for Pixel devices. Now, yes, you can use MagSafe accessories like wallets, stands, or chargers that you already have at home and in your car. And you can also use them natively here on the Pixel 10 Pro without a MagSafe case, which is awesome. Now on the Pixel 10 Pro, you can use Qi 2 or MagSafe chargers that can charge the phone up to 15 watts, but the bigger Pro XL can actually go up to 25 watts, which is on par with the latest iPhone 16 series. I'm not exactly sure why the smaller 10 Pro is capped at 15 watts, but yeah, if you want faster-ish wireless charging, then definitely go for the bigger Pro XL. All right, so since we're talking about the Pixel Snap and charging, let's quickly talk about battery life. Now, over the past few days that I've been using this phone, it's been nothing but great. Now, I will admit it was a bit rocky at first, the first 24 to 48 hours, but it definitely got better on day 3 and day 4 and so on. Now, once the phone figures out what I do on my phone regularly, which is mostly going on social, replying to emails in Gmail, it figured out what apps that I use the most and deprioritized some of the other apps installed and optimized the battery based on my usage. Now, the past week that I've had the phone though, I'd like to say I averaged about 8 to 8.5 hours of battery on the Pixel 10 Pro. And I actually haven't noticed the phone overheat or get warm even when I'm playing games for more than 30 minutes. And I've been playing a ton of COD Mobile recently. And speaking of COD Mobile, performance on the Pixel 10 Pro, in my opinion, is pretty good. I think the Tensor G5 is a major upgrade over previous Pixel phones, and everything just feels really snappy and very responsive, and I really do feel that difference day to day. And that means whether you're switching, apps or playing games, it all feels really responsive, and I'm really happy that the Pixel 10 Pro doesn't get as hot as last year's Pixel 9 Pro or 9 Pro XL. The phone will still get warm, but not to a point where it'll start throttling the phone and get really hot to the touch like last year's Pixel 9 Pro series. Now, in terms of software, the Pixel 10 Pro ships with Android 16 out of the box, and that gives us, of course, the latest and greatest Pixel features like Magic Queue, which basically allows the apps on your phone like Gmail, Calendar, Messages, and other Google apps talk to each other. And it'll basically give you suggestions or actions on what's relevant and what it thinks we need at that very moment. And all of this actually runs on the device, which is actually really nice to hear. So it doesn't need to send any of the info that we have to the cloud and back. So if your friend's asking for that restaurant address for next week, it'll be able to pull up the address from your email or your calendar reservation and give you a prompt to reply back with the address, which I think is pretty cool. Now, there's also Material 3 Expressive, which is basically a refinement of Material U, which gives, the Pixel brighter colors, bolder typography, improved layout and spacing, and it also has better animations throughout the phone, which does make the phone feel more new and more customizable and a lot snappier. But I still don't like the fact that we can't install custom icon packs on the stock Pixel launcher. So I think after this video is done, I might have to switch out to Nova Launcher so I could install some custom icons. Now, I feel like I do need to use the phone just a little bit longer to really figure out how all the new AI features work and how it can help me on a daily basis. But I also know that these won't be Pixel 10 exclusive for very long, because I'm pretty sure in a few months, we'll start seeing these features on the older Pixel devices and maybe even the Galaxy S25 series. And with that, all of these software features won't really be that special anymore, but I do hope that we can get third-party app support for Magic Q, because I think it is a really helpful feature that I can see a lot of people using on a daily basis. All right, now let's talk cameras real quick. Now, while hardware didn't really change much, we still get a triple camera setup on the back for the Pro series, but there's two major upgrades here on the Pro line. That's the ProRes zoom up to 100x, and we finally have optical image stabilization on the telephoto camera, which is awesome. So on the back, we still have that same main 50 megapixel camera with an f1.68 aperture. We still have that 48 megapixel ultra wide camera at f1.7. And of course, the slightly upgraded telephoto camera at 5x, also at 48 megapixel, which does now feature optical image stabilization. Besides hardware though, the new Tensor G5 processor also refines how it handles photo and video processing. I think photo processing on device takes only a couple of seconds versus what it was compared to last year's Pixel, especially when it comes to processing those ProRes zooms. But in terms of photo quality, I think Pixel phones have always been superb and looks great out of the camera, and the same applies to the 10 Pro. Now, like the going theme here with the Pixel 10 series, the photos look more refined each year. In good lighting, photos look really good with the right amount of contrast and color accurate colors. The HDR processing, I think, isn't as aggressive, where the highlights aren't peaking and shadows aren't crushed. And it's not super processed or too sharp, which I really like. It's pretty much what you'd expect from a Pixel phone. It's not as low contrast as an iPhone, and it takes photos that seem good enough to share right away on Instagram or other socials. Now, again, the major upgrade here on the Pixel 10 Pro series, though, is the optical image stabilization on the 5x zoom lens, which I think works great for both photos and videos. And the ProRes zoom is actually really good and seems to be processing this AI upscaled image on the device, which I'm actually not sure Google said in the keynote. But yeah, anything beyond 30x zoom, so 30x to 100x, will end up being processed a little bit longer for ProRes zoom. And I think the best samples to showcase this feature would be buildings or flowers or maybe landscape photos. I think these kinds of subjects end up having better results for ProRes zoom, but when you start taking photos of things with text in it or faces in it, it actually tends to hallucinate on the text with your typical AI mistakes and making up random text. And the photos with faces seem to only sharpen and add grain to the overall image, which, I mean, it looks okay, but it's also not the best. I think with more updates and tweaks on the back end, this feature will only get better. All in all though, the Pixel 10 Pro is great for taking photos, and I think most people are going to enjoy using it for photos. Videos, on the other hand, is, well, a little bit of a disappointment. I was actually hoping that we'd finally see more pro features like log video or maybe even 4K 120, but nope. All we have here on the Pixel 10 Pro is Video Boost, which now shoots at 8K 24 or 8K 30. And with Video Boost, you can also get steadier looking shots, but that obviously means you have to send your footage up in a cloud and have it go back down and wait for it to process your videos. For me, video is okay on the Pixel 10 Pro. It's really nothing to rave about, but I really wish that they gave us Pro mode with log and 4K 120 for slow-mo. Oh, and also one thing that I nitpicked about last year's 9 Pro camera system is how laggy it was when I wanted to switch lenses. Thankfully, with the Pixel 10 Pro and the Tensor G5, we now have a much smoother experience when switching lenses, and that goes for both photos and video. And yeah, that's pretty much my experience with the Pixel 10 Pro after a week of using it. It's Google's best Pixel to date, and it's probably the perfect time to switch to a Pixel if you've actually been holding off from switching, from a Samsung or an iPhone. I think having the same design as last year's Pixel with better color choices is a good move from Google. I really like this design a lot, and with Pixel Snap and Qi 2 finally on the Pixel 10 series, I think Google finally hit it out of the park. Now, I know that you're not gonna get the best of the best performance out of this phone, and you're also not getting pro video features, but if you consider everything else, the minimal pixel experience and all the AI features, the Qi 2 Pixel Snap feature, the awesome build quality and design, it's a really good phone that I think iPhone users or even Samsung users are gonna enjoy if they decide to switch over. Now, as always, Pixel devices almost always goes on sale during the holidays, so if you don't want to spend that retail price of $999 for the 10 Pro and $1199 for the 10 Pro XL, I would definitely wait till there's a sale or carrier deal, because I think any of the Pixel 10 series is worth the pickup this year. Just don't buy the lowest storage. Trust me, you'll thank me later.